Good morning. Today we are going to take the last part of our last chapter, chapter 6, for the continuity of generation. So last classes or previous class, we have studied about the fertilization and occurring in flowers or plants. Then we have studied about the reproduction in microorganisms, that is bacteria, fungi, then yeast, all these things that we have studied in the last class. Then hydra, bud formation in hydra, then about the bacteria, how the cell is dividing and new bacterial cells are formed. Then fungus, spore formation, and then binary fission is the process in bacteria. All these things we have covered in the previous class. And we have studied that fertilization, in the case of fertilization, if fertilization does not occur in the females, what happens? That's the reason for the menstruation. Then next year we are going to study if fertilization occurs, what is happening when the fertilization occurs. That we can see now. When fertilization occurs, what will happen? And when fertilization occurs, what happens? The ovum is produced during the ovulation time. Ovum is produced from the ovary, and this ovum will from the ovary, ovum produced that will fuses with the male gamete, that is sperm. So male and female gamete fuses together to form the zygote. And zygote is the single cell which has the capacity to divide and multiply. I have studied in our previous chapter about the zygote. Zygote is the single cell which has the capacity to divide and multiply by itself. So zygote is formed by the fusion of ovum and sperm. Ovum is the female gamete and sperm is the male gamete. So ovum and sperm fuses together to form the zygote. And zygote will divide first divide into 2 cells, then the number 4 cells, then 8 cells. Likewise, the number of cells increases, and each stage it will be different. And finally, the zygote will be converted into another form, and it will be attached to the inner wall of the uterus. So, inner wall of the uterus as an embryo, it will be attached to the inner wall of the uterus. Okay, so this is what is happening during the fertilization. In fertilization occurs. So if fertilization occurs, what happens? The ovum that is released from the ovary will fuses with the male gamete, that is sperm. So sperm and female gamete ovum fuses together to form the zygote. Zygote is the single cell which has the capacity to multiply and divide and into more number of cells. So finally what will happen? It will multiply and divide, and each month of the pregnancy, what will happen? Changes will be occurring for the embryo. That embryo will get attached after the zygote with the after the formation of zygote. So many changes are occurring there. That is, so many cells will be formed. And this formed stage will get, that embryo will get attached to the inner wall of the uterus, that is endometrium. You have studied it, endometrium. Endometrium is the inner wall of the uterus. So this fusion or fertilization is taking place in the fallopian tube. We have studied about the different parts of human female reproductive system in the last class. So fallopian tube, inside the fallopian tube, what happens? The ovum and sperm fuses together to form the zygote. And this zygote undergoes different changes. That is, it will be the zygote is the single cell, just the capacity to divide and multiply by itself. and that single cell will be converted into two cell, then two, that will be again divided into four, then eight, likewise division continues, and finally it will be converted, that single cell will be converted into an embryo, and that embryo will get attached to the inner wall of the uterus, that is the endometrium. And attaching, when this embryo get attached to the inner wall of the uterus, from the it start its growth. That is from the starting from the zygote up to the level of it is reaching to a baby. Changes are occurring on the body of the fetus. That is, different changes will be undergoing, and what happen, bones, muscles, blood, everything will be formed inside that different cells, and that finally all the changes, after occurring all the changes in that, it will be converted into a fully grown baby in the final months of the pregnancy. So each month of pregnancy are happening, this changes are occurring to the fetus inside the mother's womb. Okay, so how a fetus is formed? It's formed from the single cell zygote. How the single cell zygote is formed? By the fusion of male and female gamete in the fallopian tube of the female. Inside the fallopian tube, the ovum fuses with the sperm and forms the zygote. Okay, that's about the fertilization. The next about the placenta and the different parts that is helping the baby to grow inside the uterus, that we can see now, which are the parts. Okay, some of the parts you can see in the picture, and that you can study from the textbook. Anyway, I'll explain it to you. Here you can see umbilical cord, amniotic fluid, amnion, all these are the parts. And so that umbilical cord is the, in this picture, this is a baby inside the mother's womb. So like this, it will be like this is the position of a baby inside a fully grown baby inside the mother's womb. You can see the umbilical cord from the inside the endometrium, inside the uterus, from the endometrium, a tube-like structure that is connected to that baby, that is the umbilical cord, pokkal kodi, and in Malayalam, pokkal kodi, and that is the umbilical cord. Through the umbilical cord, the baby is getting food from the through the mother's blood. Okay. Otherwise, the baby can't get food. Only from the mother it can get the food now. So it's from the mother's blood it is getting the food through the umbilical cord. Then about the placenta. Placenta is the part by which the embryo, and placenta is the part by which embryo attaches itself to the inner wall of the uterus, to the endometrium. So this embryo, I told you, zygote get transformed into embryo. The embryo get attached to the endometrium, to the inner wall of the uterus with the help of placenta. So placenta consists of the tissues of fetus and the baby, and tissues of the baby, fetus and the uterus. So inside the placenta, inside the uterus, placenta is formed with or placenta consists of the tissues of the fetus. Fetus means the baby before the reaching the fully grown condition. Before that, it is after the zygote, it is becoming a fetus, and then this fetus tissues and the uterine tissues, mother's uterine tissues combine together from the placenta, and placenta helps in attaching the baby to the wall of the uterus, inner wall of the uterus, that is endometrium. Then about the function of placenta is oxygen and nutrients reach the fetus through the umbilical cord developed from placenta. So that umbilical cord is developed from the placenta, and through that umbilical cord, nutrients and oxygen from the mother is reaching to the baby. Then placenta helps in exchange of material between the mother and fetus without mixing the blood of mother and the fetus. Mother and fetus in the blood mix mother and the nutrients oxygen umbilical cord umbilical cord fetus placenta placenta help. Then about the amnion, you can see the picture, amniotic fluid. Amniotic fluid is the fluid that is seen inside the covering. There is amnion. Amnion. This function of the amniotic fluid is prevent the dehydration of fetus because otherwise the water present inside the it will be lost. So in order to prevent the dehydration of the fetus, amniotic fluid is present, and also this amniotic fluid protect the baby from the external shock. External shocks. That's about the amniotic fluid. So you can see the picture in your textbook about the placenta. Placenta helps in attaching the baby or the fetus, attaching the fetus to the inner wall of the endometrium. So the tissues, the placenta consists of the tissues of the fetus and the tissues of the uterus. Okay, so both these tissues combine together to form the placenta, and placenta helps in giving the oxygen and nutrients from the mother to fetus without mixing the blood of mother and the fetus. Okay, and placenta helps in exchanging the materials between the mother and the fetus. So placenta plays a very important role in the growth of the fetus. Then umbilical cord is the cord through which the nutrients and oxygen from the mother is given through the umbilical is getting the fetus through the umbilical cord. Then about the amniotic fluid, there is a covering called the amnion. Inside this amnion, what is present? Amniotic fluid is present. That amniotic fluid protects the fetus or the baby from the external shock. And the baby is protected inside the amniotic fluid, and also the dehydration of water from the baby is prevented because of the presence of amniotic fluid. The next topic is the stage of growth. The stages of growth are infancy, first cell zygote. After that zygote, embryo is formed. Then that embryo is changed into fetus. Then fetus changed into a fully grown baby. Then after that, when it is born, and the first stage is infancy, then childhood, then adolescence, then adulthood, and finally old age. These are the stages of growth. Once more, I will repeat it for you. Infancy, childhood, adolescence, adulthood, old age. These are the stages of growth. Next, about the adolescence. According to the World Health Organization, adolescence is an age that starts from 11 to 19 years. It's a stage that is a person is neither a child nor an adult. And so in this stage, people will be having a confusion, or the adolescent will be having a confusion because he is not recognized as a child, or he will not be recognized as an adult. So a personality crisis will be occurring in this stage. And in this stage, the adolescents give more importance to their friends than their parents. So you should keep in mind one thing, that is, you should have good friends. Otherwise, you will be led to so many dangers. Because in this stage, you are giving more importance to your friends than your parents. So always you should keep in touch with the good friends. Otherwise, you will be led to the dangers. And adolescence is a stage of so many challenges, because rapid growth, mentally and physically, so many changes are happening to our body. And this during the adolescent period, the growth is more rapid in girls than the boys, because the area, mental area of the part of the brain of physical and that is controlling the physical and mental activities in girls, the growth is more rapid because the growth of there are changes happening in the brain area of the brain is more in girls than in boys. That's why the growth of the during the adolescent girls, the growth is more than the boys. So it's more rapid and more rapidly, so fastly changes are happening to the physically and mentally during this stage. And emotional changes will be also occurring during this stage. That is, you will be feeling, you will be suddenly becoming angry. At the same time, you will be maybe becoming happy. And there is a mood swing also will be happening very fastly during this stage. And it's a very important stage in your lifetime. That is, it starts from the 11 to 19 years, and then it's a stage of challenges because so many changes are happening to you physically and mentally. So, and these changes are more happening in the girls more than the boys. So proper guidance should be there in the adolescent period. Otherwise, there's a chance for us to get in danger. Now we can see about the physical growth, what is happening to the boys and girls during the adolescent period. Okay, here. So I have already told you changes to the adolescent in girls is more faster than in boys because the part of the brain that control the physical and mental changes develop rapidly in the girls. So here you can see the physical changes in the adolescence of a boy and a girl. Both for boys and girls, both fast growth is happening for both of them, but little more is for the girls. Then in the case of boys, growth of sex organs gain momentum, and in the girls, growth of sex organs gain momentum. Both of them, and the growth of the sex organs is happening during at this time. Then hair grows in various part of the body for the boys. Then for the girls also, hair grows in the pubic region and the armpits. Then pitch of the voice deepens for the boys. Their voice will be changing at this adolescent period. And in the girls, the pitch of the voice becomes sharp. Then glands in the skin become more active for the boys during the adolescent period. In the girls, glands in the skin become more active and the breast develops. Then shoulder bones expands in the case of boys, and in the girls, hip bones widen. Then ejaculation starts for the boys, and in girls, menstruation starts. This is about the physical changes that is happening for the boys and girls during the adolescent period, and it is a more challenges period because more rapid changes are happening for the boys and girls, and changes are more in girls than the boys because the area of development in the girls, mental development in the girls, area of the brain that is controlling the development is developing very fastly in the case of girls. So the girls are having more changes than the boys. But both boys and girls will be facing more rapid, more fastly growth mentally and physically. They are facing so many changes during this period. So some people, adolescent will get difficulty to adjusting these changes. And there's a chance for misleading during the, if proper guidance is not there during the adolescent period, there's a chance for misleading for them to the danger. So this is a period that we should take very attention before doing each and every action, and also about our friends also. and we should have the courage. For bad things, we should have the courage to say no itself. Otherwise, we will be in the danger. That's the situation in the case of adolescents, because they are giving more importance to their friends than their parents. So even the adolescent period, your parents should have knowledge about your friend's name and who are your friends. Everything should be should have a knowledge of your parents also. Otherwise, there's a chance for you to led by them. If you are having a bad friends, or if you are having any getting a bad guidance, and there's a chance for you to get in the bad habits. That is like for in the case of boys, there's a chance for having a bad habit such as alcoholism, smoking, likewise. So you should get good guidance from your parents and from the society about during this adolescent period, to go in a good manners, to have good manners and to go in a good path. Okay, then next about the anemia. Anemia is a disease that is caused because of the reduction in number of red blood cells. Our blood is red in color because of the presence of hemoglobin. So if the number of red blood cells or the decrease in the hemoglobin in our blood, that results in the disease anemia. And this anemia is caused due to the deficiency of iron. So in schools and all, students are given iron tablets in order to prevent this disease. And this anemia can be prevented by taking with food rich in iron content. So by taking the food rich in iron content, we can get rid of the anemia. Otherwise, if an anemic patient, there will be difficulty in the carrying oxygen, and oxygen is carried with the help of hemoglobin. For an anemic patient, what will be having the hemoglobin pigment will be less in their blood. So oxygen will be carried very less to the cell, or oxygen carrying capacity of the blood will be reduced. If oxygen does not reach the cells, what happens? We will not get energy. So we will feel fatigue or tiredness, and our memory will be lost. All these all these are the side effects. All these are the effects of disease anemia. So keep in mind, you should have a balanced diet in your food. That is, you should eat food rich in iron content. Okay. Then next topic is part 2, distraction. That is about the smoking. You should not have the bad habits like smoking, because smoking and tobacco, tobacco is the main content. In that, in cigarettes and all, tobacco is the main content. Tobacco consists of nicotine, then benzene, etc. These are the chemicals present in the tobacco. Not only nicotine and benzene, so many chemicals are present in tobacco. Among these chemicals, 70 of the chemicals present in tobacco is cancer causing, and smoking mainly affects the cancer in birth, mouth, throat, lungs, esophagus, and all these areas. A great chance for those who are smoking. There's a great chance for cancer in all these areas: mouth, esophagus, lungs, and all these areas. There's a great chance for those people who is addicted to smoking. And those who are standing near, those who are consuming the smoke, also the cigarette smoke, also get the disease. So there's a chance to get the disease. Okay, so keep in mind. And what happens during the smoking? It reduces the diameter of the blood vessel, and the oxygen will not get mixed with the blood vessel, and the oxygen will not reach our cells. And when oxygen does not reach our cells, what happens? Our memory will be lost, and we will not get energy. All these things will be happened. So smoking is a bad habit, alcoholism, smoking, all these are bad habits, and that will lead you to the destruction. That may, pathway to destruction means നാശത്തിലേക്കുള്ള വഴി. So you all should be good students. You should not in future you should not have a bad habit like smoking or addicted to alcohol. Okay, so that's about our chapter, and read the chapter. If you are having any doubt, you can clear through the WhatsApp. Our chapter is finished, and so read the textbook very well. Okay, thank you.